Dear audience, welcome to the show POWERchat. In today's episode, we will be discussing about Nepal's transitional justice process with particular focus on the extended mandate of Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Nepal. Joining us today is Ms. Manchala Jha, Commissioner at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Please allow me to welcome her. Welcome to the show, Ms.
Thank
Jha.
you so much, Mr. Pant, for inviting me as a guest of today.
Well, next half an hour we'll be discussing on Nepal's transitional justice process with focus on the work of Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where you are one of the commissioners. Could you tell us your observation about Nepal's transitional justice process as such?
Well, Mr. Pant, as we all know that once Nepal was a peaceful country among the world, but unfortunately we have faced a decade-long conflict between the government of Nepal and the then Communist Party Maoist. And during that era, 1996 to 2006, we have lost a number of lives. More than 1,700 people were disappeared, and over 100,000 people were displacement, torture, mental harassment, rape, sexual violence, and the gross violation of human rights were spread all over the era. And finally, the government of Nepal and then the Communist Party Maoist think that the peace process is needed, and according to their need, they have managed a peace agreement. I mean, CPA has been signed between the government of Nepal and then the Communist Party Maoist. And in that peace accord, there is an article 5.2.5 which paved the way to set up TJ mechanism within 6 months after the conflict. But unfortunately, we have managed to form TJ mechanism after 8 years.
Do you think that concerns of the victims in post-conflict situation, there are so many instruments including TRC, those concerns have been addressed by these mechanisms?
Yes, in the beginning I felt that the political parties did not pay attention toward the TJ mechanism, and as you know that TJ mechanism is the issue of criticism worldwide, and it is also politicized. So in Nepal also it was politicized and criticism of the issue, and finally it has taken 8 years, and you can imagine the time of 8 years from the political parties due to the lack of their interest, and after the pressure of international community, victims and stakeholders, finally the government have formed TJ mechanism on 10th February 2015.
You mean the Truth and Reconciliation Commission?
Yeah.
What were the objectives behind establishing TRC?
Well, if you will go to the preamble of Act, the objective of TRC has mentioned there clearly. Our main objective is to address the gross violation of human rights during committed during the conflict era. And if you will go through the act of TRC, there is a definition of gross violation of human rights, and in that definition 8 kinds of incident mentioned there: murder, torture, rape, sexual violation, abduction, mental harassment, and seizure of property, and any kind of inhumane act. And if you will talk about the mandate, as per the TRC, as we know that TJ mechanism has some components, and we have 5 components of TJ. First of all, we have to find out the truth. Seeking truth is the first component of TJ mechanism, and according to our act, we have to find out the truth and why the incident has happened, and who was the perpetrators and who is the real victim. So our first duty is to find out the truth. identify the victims, and we have to distribute the identity card to the victims too. These are our mandate. And second mandate is reconciliation. You know, the reconciliation is main component for TJ mechanism. You may know that TJ mechanism is not a criminal justice court. It's a quasi-judicial body. So we have to make an environment for reconciliation also. So our second component is to make an environment for the reconciliation according to the desire of the victims. If the victims and perpetrators will give us application, then only we will make an environment for the reconciliation. And our third component is to recommend the complaints for reparation according to the desire of the victims. And our fourth component is to forward the file for prosecution. As you know, that if the gross violation of human right committed by the perpetrators, then we will forward the file for prosecution to the AG directly. And our fifth component is that once we in Nepal experience the conflict inside our country, and we do not need again. So why conflict has taken place in Nepal, and how can we remove from such type of circumstances, and what are the reform for institution? So these are our guideline and principle and our mandate to move forward.
Well, Ms. Jha, you have presented very motivating facts that you have a very interesting mandate to look after.
Yeah.
Could you tell us, you have completed with the 3 years,
Yeah.
now you have one more year to go, recent extension. Where are you in terms of this work, finding out the root causes of the conflict, also reconciliation, and all mandates that you were mentioning? Where are you at the moment?
Actually, first of all, when we have started our works, there are lots of circumstances. Due to the circumstances, we could not move smoothly. And in the beginning, we have some confusion about the modality. Which modality we have to adopt for the investigation. So first of all, we have decided to adopt holistic method, not selective method, okay? Because our act has guided us to find out and identify each victims, and we have to distribute the identity card for the each victims, and we have to recommend their file for the government for reparation. So it's our duty to find out the victims. That's why we have decided to adopt holistic method.
Are you able to provide with the identity card?
No, not yet, because we have not made investigation yet. We are in the process now.
What have you done during last 3 years?
I am coming to your point that we have, first of all, we have visited 71 districts and made direct consultation with the victims. The desire of victims, their wants, their pain, and the victims said that we need reparation, we need reconciliation. But if you go through our act, there is no scope of reconciliation, because in the beginning I have told you that we have 8 incidents to address, and these 8 incidents are called gross violation of human right. In one side, it has defined as a gross violation of human right, and in other side, our act has allowed us to give reconciliation also. So there is a contradiction in act, because if we will give or make an environment of reconciliation, we need act, but according to our act, there is no scope.
Do you mean that there is no ground for any sort of amnesty
Yeah.
to the grave violations of human rights?
Because in the act has defined the gross violation of 8 kind of incident, and beside this incident, there were no any incident has taken place in war era. So how can we give reconciliation? We request the government and we remind them to please remove that hurdles of act.
What is the response from the government?
Number of times we requested them, remind them, but they have not paid attention towards it yet. They have not shown any interest about our concern, about our requirements.
And
about
this
our
1 year
needs.
extension is without change in the mandate?
Yeah, without changing the mandate, they have only extended the tenure, and only extending tenure is not the solution of our problem, because we have scant resources, we have not sufficient human resources also. So how can we move forward? How can we accomplish our mission? You can imagine.
How are you planning to move forward? How are you partnering with the stakeholders?
Actually, we have discussed with the stakeholders more than number of times. Did several discussion with the stakeholders, with the victims, with the civil society, but it was not sufficient actually, because they told us that they had we have to make several discussion with them, but unfortunately we could not make several discussion, but we have made direct consultation with the victims of rural area, with the victims of grassroots, and we have made a plan to extend our branch offices. But due to the lack of scant resources and human resources, how can we move forward smoothly? These are the obstacles and these are the hurdles of TRC which we have been facing since the beginning.
How can these hurdles be sorted out? Because the conflict time victims, they have expected a lot from the TJ mechanisms, including TRC and other instruments here in Nepal. If you could not come up with some concrete plan, how can their concerns be addressed?
You are right. People have a lot of expectation and faith from TRC, but we have limited in our mandate, and lack of the interest of government and the political parties, we can't move forward. Everybody knows that the TJ mechanism formed from the political will. So political will needed. Without political need, without the support of government, we can move forward. And we requested, as I have already told you, that we have requested the government to remove that hurdles, but without paying interest in our concern, they have amended the act for extending our tenure, but I have already told you that this is not the solution of our commission.
What are the major works you have done during last 3 years, except meeting the conflict victims and interacting with them? Do you have a kind of database with you so that in the extended period you could speed up with your programs?
Yeah, actually, when we have made direct consultation with the victims, we have taken their versions and we recommend their version in our interim report to the government, and we have altogether more than 63,000 complaints, and we have sent separate files for it, and computerized it one by one, and we have started our investigation work, as I already told you, and in nearer future we will forward the file to reparation to the government. It's our motto. And in past, before extending the tenure, I especially request the commission that at least we have to forward 100 files to the government for the reparation, but we have failed to do this. It's really unfortunate for us.
do you think that the criticism is coming because of the lack of your work, lack of your speed in addressing their concerns, or this is just a criticism? And how can these criticisms be addressed so that you gain trust and the conflict victims' concerns are very properly addressed?
If you will see the world-wise TJ process, there is a criticism. No any TJ mechanism move forward without criticism. In Nepal also we are facing criticism, and as you said, it's the fault inside and outside, both sides. Fault from outside means there is a political clout. I have seen the political clout from the outside, and due to the political clout we can't move forward, one. And inside also, I have seen a number of laxes, fault from outside also. There is no spirit, there is no spirit, and there is no will to move forward in a speed, motion. So motion is needed. Your strong willpower is needed to remove these hurdles. So time to time, I mean number of times I requested the commission to change our motion of work, and I think in nearer future we'll change our motion of work to accomplish the wish of the victims.
Also, there is criticism that TRC is not in line with the international principles of human rights, especially there's concerns from the international community time and again. If you believe the media reports,
the violence of human rights is the subject of universal concern. It's not confined jurisdictions of any particular nation. And as Nepal is a sovereign country and have ratified it on numerous commitment of human rights and international humanitarian law, we have to follow the concern. And as you said, international community is watching smoothly and watching keenly to the TJ process of Nepal. And due to the lack of act and due to the lack of amendment of act as the line of Supreme Court, international community doesn't own up our work yet. It's a challenge for TRC Nepal.
And how independent is the commission itself? Do you face with any political pressures? Because the violation of human rights are the concerns of political stakeholders of that time too.
You are very true that it consists of political will, but I haven't faced such type of interference yet. Maybe in future we will face, but if we are in the commission, we should free from the political pressure, political interest and all. And in our code of conduct, in our act, there are some points which mention that we should have to free from the political interest, political pressure. And if we will do our work with the political pressure, we can't give justice. We have to do our work with the interest of conflict victims. And we can't forget the CPA also, Comprehensive Peace Agreement. There are some points which guided us to do our work, to how to move forward to accomplish our work.
Ms. Jha, there are a lot of issues, but we are coming to the end of the show. What are the immediate works to be done within the edges of Truth and Reconciliation Commission so that you meet your mandate, you complete with your mandate in the extended 1 year period, very quickly?
First of all, political parties and the government should amend our act according to the line of Supreme Court verdict. The government should provide us sufficient resources, because in one side we have 63,000 complaints, and due to the scant resources, how can we accomplish our mission? It's not possible within 1 year. So first of all, we need proper law, act, and proper resource, and in nearer future, we want to extend our branch offices in different districts with the number of complaints, and then we'll move to our work properly. A work plan also, and we'll go through it.
Well, Ms. Jha, it was pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pant, for inviting me today as a guest speaker, and thank you, audience, for your patience.
Dear audience, time now to wrap up the show. Keep watching us. See you next week. Namaste.